can be mortals.
Welcome back, Mere Mortalites, to another edition of the Mere Mortals Musings. And today we're going to be talking about 2100. 2100, 75 years from today. It was a concept, I think, that Karen, we started talking about in the last previous conversation, and we were like, wait, pause. I think let's talk about that next week, and it is today, the next week. We are on 24th of August. It's Sunday. We are live close-ish to 9 a.m.
2025, so
2025, correct. 75 years
is what we're
predicting it at the moment. So
or envisioning, perhaps.
Yeah, so it's going to get wild because that's quite a while away. You got Juan here, by the way.
And Karen here.
So, yeah, we're going to get into it. I've split mine. I've got quite a lot of notes here, which usually I don't take them, at least written down. So
I've got topics of creativity, consciousness, reserve currency, physical space, robots, and unanswered questions.
Okay. But I think I've broken mine down into, because I was going to go into categories, but instead I ended up going with likely. So there's likely things to happen.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be good.
Crazy. And then one insane one, which Karen heard a little bit about this morning, and I'll try and describe it in some more detail for the mere mortals at home.
Sounds good.
I think we just go one-to-one though.
Okay.
I think we go one-to-one. It's going to be the easiest thing. If you're listening to this live as well, feel free to put your thoughts in the comments in any categories. I'll read them out. We'll probably pause and talk about some of them during the Boostagram Lounge as well. So yeah, feel free to do so, and we'll get on board. I'll kick it off. I'll start my first one, my likely one. And I wrote down that the borders are not going to tighten. They're going to blur by 2100. And what I mean by this is I think as we move to a more digital, favorited way of interacting with humanity, I have a feeling that the national aspect of, hey, I want to go to Africa or I want to go to America, the influence of going to different locations is going to decrease, and they're not going to tighten borders. They're going to blur them. It's going to be almost less requirements for passports as opposed to more stringent requirements for passports. So partly that, partly it's going to become like cities are going to become the new countries. And I was talking to my wife about this morning. We were kind of saying, maybe today, if someone's coming to Australia, like say you're living in the US and you say, I want to go to Australia, you don't mean I want to go to Adelaide. You don't mean I want to go to, Port Macquarie. You don't mean that. That's not what you mean. What you mean is you want to go see Sydney, you want to go see Melbourne, maybe you want to go see the Gold Coast. There's like specific areas of Australia you want to see. You don't want to see Australia. Similarly, if someone says like, I want to go see the USA, what does that mean? You don't say, I want to go to Minnesota. I want to go to, North Texas.
I've started off disagreeing with this, and I'm getting even further into disagreement.
So my view is by 2100, I think it'll become, cities will be the new countries. As in, there's just going to be this conglomeration of people more so in cities. There's going to be less care factor of country as a whole, and it'll become dominated either because of abundance of tech or central hub, like multiplied by 100 in comparison to what we have today, something along those points. So I think it'll become less nations, more cities become this new power hubs that I think is starting to shift towards that lens now, where, like as I said, if you think about Australia, you'd actually be saying, oh, I want to go visit Sydney, I want to go visit Melbourne if you're not from Australia. I think it'll become even more default where people will be like, oh, you don't only want to travel if just visit Sydney. That's it. You're not going to go see anything else because why would you? It's got everything that you potentially need.
Yeah, I'm unsure of that. The portion of me that is more, I guess, what you'd call like equitable would be like, it shouldn't really matter where you're born in the world. You should have opportunities to travel, to go to other places, to make a living, have a family, that sort of stuff. But there's still going to be, I think, differences of like races, skin colors, and things like that, which will I still think the physical location aspect. I'm not sure. If anything, there'll be more. There could be a kickback of like, oh, we're going so digital that let's put more emphasis on the physical stuff. You were born in this place, you're this thing for sure. So like,
oh, okay, yeah.
So I don't particularly view myself as Australian, for example. Like you attach things to your identity. Soccer player used to be one for me, probably engineer when I was working as an engineering job, whatever you're spending most of your time doing. Australian's not a strong one for me. But just something about what you're saying. I was like, I still feel like the borders, as much as I'd love them to be looser and that you can go wherever you want and not have to deal with fucking visas or like whether they let you in or not if you're from XYZ country. I see this a lot just because I meet like a lot of Latinas and Latinos from Colombia, for example, and they can come here, but they can't work like Argentinians can because they can't get the same visa because for whatever reason, Australian government says Colombians aren't allowed this visa compared to Argentinians, you know, like all that sort of stuff. I think that's still going to be just as strong. But I don't have really good arguments or reasonings as to why.
For it, yeah. That's my first one.
Okay, well, I'll tie it in with this one, which I had of physical space. And so I did a book review of The Inevitable by Kevin Kelly, probably 3 years ago. And in this book, he's kind of a futurist author, starter, founder of Wired magazine, which was kind of talking about technology. So he's always looking into the future with a technology bent. That's his thing. So like, what's the future going to look like, technologically speaking? And I thought it was a fun book for the technology side of things. But when he talks about human behavior, I'm less certain of what he was talking about. So, for example, he was saying everything's going to become screenified, or there was another word for it. He created a verb for these things, where essentially everything will be a screen. The walls will be a screen. The stairs will be a screen. And they'll all have this kind of interactivity component to them, where they'll have some chips in them. Some things might have more, so you might have like a wall in your house, which is the designated viewing one, instead of a TV, which we have now. The wall will be the big screen. And that, you know, when you're walking up your stairs, it'll be able to tell you like, oh, hey, like it's buckling a little bit in the middle here because people are walking on this. It's going to cause some, you know, the stress levels are this much. It's probably going to wear and tear. You've probably got like another 5 years until maybe you need to start thinking about like replacing the varnish, or like this one stair in particular for whatever reason is going to like indent or whatever. That sort of stuff I can kind of get behind of. So our physical space becoming more digified, digitalized. Yep. I could definitely see that one something happening. But he also had this idea of these kind of apartments which were interchangeable. So, you know, much like how, and same with cars. He was essentially saying like cars and parking them is taking up a tremendous amount of physical space at the moment in cities, and they're underutilized. Car parks are empty for 90% of the time, i.e. during the night, or like maybe not 90%, let's say 60% of the time they're not utilized from 5 p.m. until 7 a.m., something like that. And the cars themselves aren't being utilized during that time. We're going to have everything shared. So we're going to have robo-taxis where we share them all the time. We're going to have apartments which are shared as well. So you go up to your apartment, you sleep in there, and that'll be during the daytime because we're going to have shift workers as well. So it's going to be like a 24/7, more of a 24/7 economy, because at the moment most humans are awake during the daytime, and there's going to be this kind of gradual shift towards more like nighttime people as well. It just being a kind of more around the clock. And so he had this...
Fuck, that's dumb. Fuck, that's dumb.
He had this concept of these apartments, which essentially, you know, did you ever go to any of the toilets in Europe, which are self-cleaning?
Yes.
Yeah. And my dad told me this as well. Apparently they've got UV lights coming down, so that if you're trying to shoot up with a needle or something,
it prevents you from
you can't see your vein. I didn't know that. I thought that was interesting.
Yep.
And so as Cole mentioned in the comments, Communist Karen here with his communist hat on, we're going to be sharing everything. We're going to be sharing apartments, and we'll have this apartment that's kind of like a rinse clean, like you leave it rinse cleans, and someone else comes in from their, you know, night shift, and they've got a designated time and things like this.
Are you saying you believe
No. That's the stuff where I go,
what?
That makes no sense to me. that doesn't.
I was going to be like, man, we're starting off strong here.
Yeah, for sure. So no, that one I disagreed with. Sounds like you do as well. And part of the reason I get this feeling is that we won't reverse the declining global birth rates. So I don't know if the overall birth rates are still going up, like if the Africans are still making babies, and that they're keeping us, and the Latin Americans maybe, but certainly in the Western world it's declining. I think we're going to go so maybe at the moment we're like going up, then we'll decrease a little bit, then we'll plateau eventually. But then gradually life expectancy will rise. So that's got to play into it as well. So the amount of humans, maybe there's a prediction you want to add in. Will there be more humans, less humans? What will be the human population in 2100?
Yeah, look, I'll mix in maybe a couple of things that I've got here on the likely scenario. But a couple of things. So one, I think it's going to be time shift to families. So what I mean by time shift to families, by 2100, I was saying, again, talking to my wife about this, I think you have now the ability to do, IVF and outside of body embryo. I think China right now has started doing a robot that can birth the baby for you on your behalf, basically, and go through the whole process of that.
Nice.
So, but for sure by 2100, that's happening. But more than that, it'll be time shift to families that are full. So right now, this is illegal, but I think it'll become legalized and totally accepted that you can do full DNA manipulation. So you can say, what I meant by that is you could be 24-year-old in 2100 and you can say, when I'm 31, I want to have a boy. I want to have that boy to have these sort of genetics and these sort of traits. And you won't be able to, max your stats at 100%, but maybe the elites will be allowed to. So that's going to be a thing that I was going to talk about in a separate point. But I think from a birth perspective, and I think Elon Musk had this view just recently, he was sort of saying he thinks that the move towards much more digitization and technology and things becoming like a post-scarcity model where everything becomes $0, like everything's quite free. And so you imagine everyone's got as many nannies as you want and all the help that you could possibly think about to raising kids, maybe reducing that level, like layer / maybe poverty, then moves you into a place where, fuck, you might as well just be making loads of kids because what else are you going to do? Like, you might as well raise lots of families.
That's 100% bias on his part.
Because he's doing that. Yeah. So I don't know if that's everyone going to be doing that. I think it's just going to more so like stabilize, but we're going to have an interesting problem in, I think that, how do I write it? My wife disagreed with this one, but we're definitely going to hit, or at least I think by 2100, we're going to hit longevity escape velocity. We're going to achieve it. And what does that actually mean? Like, just to be clear, what does it mean? I think it's just going to mean that, I'll put it to us. I think we are in a stage now, even today, where we're probably going to hit the starting beginnings of longevity escape velocity in that.
One wants to reach 120 so bad.
In our 50s, so then, it's 2050 or something like that.
Okay.
They'll go, now at your age, we could probably get you to, if you're predicted to be at 90, we could probably get to about 100, 110 just by probability and, diseases, blah, blah. And then by the time we get to 70 and 2070 or something like that, it'll be like, we can eke it out now to about an average of 120, 125. So by the time 2100 arrives and, maybe we're 100 years old, I'll be like, we can eke it out to like about 130, 140 years old. So I'm not suggesting that by 2100 we've all achieved immortality, but I think it'll have achieved a certain level of longevity escape that for every year that you live, the potential increase of life expectancy is beyond a year. So at that point, you could technically say you've escaped, the problems of getting older, but again, not entirely, because then you have just accidents, etc., that just mistakes, whatever that causes death. So I'm not saying we've removed death, but we've reached longevity escape velocity in that every year that goes by, there's more of a delta than a year than your actual living year.
Okay.
There's that potential. But the one that I thought was interesting that actually would affect directly on that I think is going to be likely, is then the need for multi-generational housing. Because what the fuck are you going to do if you got your great-great-granddad at 130 and your granddad at your great-granddad at 110, your granddad at 90, your dad at 50, and then you're at 20? I don't see that the answer there will be, we're just going to have so much more housing. I think the difference there will be housing will become this multi-generational setup, kind of like you see in a lot of Asian societies and communities. I think you're going to see bigger, more bedroom like apartments or houses to house all of these families under the one roof. I'm not gonna. I don't see it becoming a case of like there's just more housing everywhere and everyone's living in a more lonely way. I think it just co-locates, and that goes along with my view of like co-location of cities. I think it's going to get this conglomeration of everyone living in more central areas, boosted by the fact that I think by 2100 it won't have progressed so far that it's like ubiquitous across the world, but there'll be such abundance of technology and things, but in like really centralized locations that everyone will just live around those areas, or they'll make it possible for everyone to live around those areas.
Okay. No, I think our view of let's focus on like the physical space aspect of what we actually imagine things happening in the time, because I think we're gonna have some different ideas in that. I don't envision that happening with the multi-generational families. If you've got great-great-grandchildren, I'm not sure the genetic link is going to be that strong in terms of, so at the moment, your grandchildren are 1/4 you, so great-grandchildren are 1/8, so 1/16. This thing is 1/16, and I'm assuming DNA was still... Mixing DNA is still the thing, and you're not just kind of cloning or doing yourself. Like 75% clone, that sort of stuff. Maybe that is. I'm not sure the 108-year-old who I assume is, in the body of a 70-year-old of nowadays, that's kind of how I'm imagining this is working, is really going to be wanting to put up with a fucking newborn in the house, I'm just not sure that I see that happening. And the other thing as well is, let's go back 75 years as well. So like 1950. How much has changed from 1950 to now? Sure, there's a lot of technology differences, but in terms of the cities have gotten bigger, but it's not like there's not people in the countryside as well. And it's not like there's not old people living by the beach in their, dream house that they've gotten away from the city. I feel like, how many people in the city at the moment where you'd be like, if money wasn't an issue, would you still be living in the city, would actually stay there? I'm sure there's still a lot who love like the city atmosphere and life, but I feel like there's quite a lot who want to live this kind of dream of acreage and away from everything. But they just can't financially afford that. So if it is abundance everywhere, would they be able to do that? Yeah, and also just the racial and cultural differences as well, I think are still going to exist. So I'm not sure that you can wipe out the... I'm reading a book at the moment about Lee Kuan Yew, and he's talking about China. And he's saying like, the Chinese heritage of, these 3,000 years of like China being... China number one, like we're the most civilized, the most advanced or something, and then, the 1900s/1800s happen and they fall from grace. They don't adopt technology and get wrecked because of it. Now they're coming back. Are they going to go to like a democracy, for example? He was saying that, and he was just like, none of their 3,000-year history suggests that they're going to have like a one person, one vote sort of thing. And so those sorts of things, I don't envision the physical space actually being that radically different in terms of, all the futuristic sci-fi, metal everywhere, gleaming chromium, things like that.
No, I don't either.
I think a house will look relatively similar to this. There'll just be chips on everything, but it's not like it's going to visually look that much different. I think the normal style.
Yeah, I think I disagree that the physical, like the chip thing, I think at one point in time made sense, but now will make no sense to do that when you can like augment reality the hell out of whatever you will want probably at that point. I don't have a point on that, but
so you think the augmentation will be more, we'll all be augmenting ourselves and reality will stay the same?
Correct.
The real world will stay the same, and we're just viewing everything or hearing things, smelling things differently, rather than physical space
maybe
changing.
one of my more out there ones, but I think it's likely that by 2100 we will have human AI symbiosis, or human technology, or human machinery robot symbiosis. I think if I had to like time it, if I had to like predict timing, I think by 2050 we're having these conversations of like, oh my god, we've got a few people now using brain chip implants, and we're using people using bionic I think by 2100 it becomes a kind of by default, like it's very rudimentary to go have a implant of some kind to go symbiosis with technology. So in that layer, then let's just say you've got an ability to augment reality through your eyes to be able to just be like, oh yeah, I can just pull up a TV on this wall, whatever, to watch whatever you want. So I think at that point, kind of makes no reasonable sense to actually have chips into things when you can just augment
chips
reality.
Into yourself, yeah. That symbiosis, so once again, like 75 years in the past, would they look at us now? What's really changed? Not that much. Like, you've got a watch, sure, it's digital, but it's still just a thing you've attached to yourself, and can take off. Same with the phones and Aura rings and Meta glasses and stuff. So we've chipified a lot of things. And you talked about the people changing their babies instead of be legalized. Will it be normalized? Do you think most people will be going and saying like either so versus a natural birth of, just impregnating a woman or getting impregnated, versus I'm going to do this via like artificial sperm. I'm going to do this via like a sperm coming in, but then I'll modify it in the egg. I'm going to just have it all outsourced to somewhere else, and like
I think all of these things by 2100 are normalized.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I think for sure you're going to have the transitioning period where I think in 2 generations time you're going to have being like, oh, that kid's actually not fully human. They were like machine made, whatever. But I think by 2100,
okay. I thought you were like gonna say like, oh, that kid's like Joey, who's like IQ 90, like, oh, gross. Like you could tell his parents. I think his parents had SEX.
You could even do it in this way. So like, I think there's going to be human AI, human technology, human robot symbiosis connection. But not only that, I also think by 2100 we're going to have the normalization of like human to robotic or machinery relationships. I think like undeniably that's going to happen. But take it a step beyond. I actually think by 2100 it'll be normalized that people don't have real world babies but have digital babies. Okay. I'm thinking digital babies.
Yeah, I don't.
So the example here would be say someone right now, like I know people, they don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
The reason they don't want to have kids because you don't want to deal with the negative parts and don't know what the positive aspects are. But by then, there will be options of you raising like a Tamagotchi back in the day.
Sure.
It'll be a full digital baby and you only get the positive from it.
Yeah, like a dog baby sort of thing.
People will do that 1,000,000%, especially if it's if you're augmented as well with chips and whatnot. So imagine you could literally like augment reality, see a baby and a kid growing up, but it is in a digital format, not in a real world format, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Look, I would say the options of things will potentially grow. So much like having the options of whatever pet that you want to kind of supplement, perhaps having that entity that's dependent on you, and having that feeling of being a mother or father without actually giving birth to a child. Yes, I think I could see there being more options, and certainly like an AI baby type one is one of those. Will that be the? I think it'll be normalized.
Not the norm, but normalized.
So would you say being a cat lady is normalized at the moment? So if you've got, 8, let's say more than 5 cats, is that normalized instead of having a child?
instead of having a child.
Yeah, so like in this present day, if you met a lady and she's like, oh no, I don't want kids, and she's got 5 cats, is that normalized? Is that, do you feel that's like a normal thing? Is that something that you'll raise your eyebrows at? Is that where you'll just be like, oh yeah,
no,
okay,
I don't think that I see that as being normalized. No,
right now,
that's
not normalized.
I don't think that's a normalized thing.
Yeah, so this is where I'm like, I think it'll happen, but I'm not sure it'll be normalized to have an AI
I think
baby.
the differentiation here is that being a cat lady with 8 cats versus wanting kids, that's not a trend. Like that isn't a trend that at least I've seen. I think that will become a trend towards normalization. As in, like, not everyone will want to do it, but it'll be normalized as like, oh yeah, I can understand that there's a subset of humanity that wants to proceed down this path. Just similarly, like I'm probably most people our age and older, there's very little chance any of us will really go down the path of brain chip implants unless there was like irrefutable proof that it's safe and whatnot. Like kids like my daughter and maybe the next generation, they're probably going to grow in the world where it's freely exists. And so by the time they're 50, it'd just be like a default of, oh yeah, of course you get a chip implant so you can,
because you've already had it since
you don't have to do school anymore. You're at 4 years old. You've already got all the skill sets of. But see, this is where it comes crazy, and we'll get into some crazy stuff. I think after this Boostagram Lounge. But I was going to say my only tip in here is, while I say all this, I don't think it's going to be ubiquitous. AKA, this is not for everyone, and I do think it's going to become like an elite, powerful group that will have all of this. What I'm saying. But it won't be everyone that has the ability or the chance to participate in all of this. It will become even more and more, it will be more dominated by certain figures, and I'm going to say it, companies, and governments will cease to really be that operational or like useful in that regard.
Here's a little twist on that for you. I can see the full-on techno files going down this path. They're the ones who are doing all the experimentation. They're the ones who are saying, yes, we're going to have the AI children. That's normal. I don't think you're going to... I still think most births will probably be the natural ones just because it's so hard to overcome evolution. Like, guys and girls just want to have sex and put babies in each other. Well, guys put babies in girls. Maybe it'll change, who knows. But... I still think that'll be the normal, but imagine though, you're the full-on technophile. You've found your kind of community. You're the ones who are like, yep, brain implants. Like, let's fucking do it. Rockets to Mars and stuff. I want to be on it. All these sorts of things. What if, much like Bitcoiners, early Bitcoiners now, the super nerds, they are fucking extremely wealthy. They've got 10,000 plus Bitcoin or whatever. They're billionaires. But would you say they are the elite? Are they the powerful? No.
Well, I think
so. I could certainly see there just being like a cluster of these people in Africa or some shit.
I'll challenge. I think I'll challenge this because it's an interesting one. Pause it for after the Boostagram Lounge.
I got so much, man. Let me get at least one more.
No, we're going to go do Boostagram Lounge quickly. We're going to do the Boostagram Lounge quickly.
No.
So, Boostagram Lounge, folks at home, is a chance for you to send Boostagram. The only reason I'm doing it is because we have no Boostagrams. But we've got lots of streams.
No, I've got stuff. No need to talk about the streams. Yeah,
exactly. That's why I didn't bring it up.
So, coming into my bag of goodies here. A hat. It's not going on today. No one boosted in. The Chuck's cloth hat, unfortunately.
Not going on.
It's not going on.
Lots of streams, but no Boostagrams.
Yeah. But what I do have to do is give a little call and shout out and thanks to Anton. So Anton. Is from the Morpheus community, and I was just doing some stuff, playing around with some things, and he's actually sent me some swag. So I've got a little Morpheus cap on here, Morpheus on the back.
Hey, it looks very nice.
I actually prefer the
sponsored by Morpheus today. Thank you very much.
the Chinese cap that I've got from my dad when he was in China. I love the fit and style of this thing. Like, this feels so good.
Can I try it? So you were saying that it was like squared and stuff.
Yeah. So this one,
it is very nice material.
These are like the American baseball cap type ones. It's just got like
amazing. That's really cool. I'm a communist.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's wonderful. If this is what communism feels like, I'm converted.
Right.
That's an excellent feeling hat. I'm going to say. I've never had a good feeling hat, but that was very nice.
Got the Morpheus t-shirt.
Oh, it's got all the swag coming out, man. Jesus.
The future will be decentralized. Thank you, Anton. A whole bunch of stickers, and unfortunately they've kind of like curled up, but I will sticker some things as well.
Cool.
And what else did he I got some chocolates from him as well.
Very nice.
Didn't need to. So thank you,
Anton.
I will
continue holding the Morpheus hat on for the rest of the episode. For that. Sure. Thank you very much.
I'm putting on the comfy hat.
But anyways, yeah, you can support us obviously doing this. You can send through some boostagrams. You can share it and do all the good things.
Yeah. And most of that was because I did the Mere Morpheus podcast, and I'm actually going to start uploading the weekly maintainer updates because they normally do it on Twitter, and I hate listening to it on there. It's pissed me off. So I'm going to download them and just put them into that feed. So just as much for myself as for other people, but it's much more handy and easier access to get in a podcast, I find. So that might be something people would want to. So if you're interested in the Morpheus kind of AI project, that's go to Mere Morpheus and you can get the weekly updates and
the details on that. There you
go. Cool.
All right, get back in the program. We got lots of ideas. I think we got to talk about.
Oh yeah, so much. So I still got to do robots, reserve currency, consciousness, creativity. Jesus Christ! All right, let's.
So go to the currency one because I had a slightly different, idea when you started talking about this of what might happen by 2100.
So I posted a graph in the Discord about the global reserve currency across history, and if you look at it, you can just see that it essentially has these, and across history it was until like 1200 AD, so the last 800-ish years. And you just see that these currencies, they last for a period of time, usually between 50 to 200 years, something like that, and then it'll get replaced by another one. And these are typically a government-owned type one or government-controlled one, so it'll be like the Spanish peso, for example, and then it'll be the Florence, I guess.
Yep. The Dutch mark.
The British pound. We're in the American dollar nowadays. And then you can see, like, obviously this was a BTC related graph, so they put BTC starting in 2019, 2009, something like that. And okay, so it changes over time. And personally, I do think BTC, Bitcoin, will become the established one, global reserve currency. I think that'll happen in this next 75-ish years. But so that'll take a couple of decades to switch over, and there's always these transition periods. I was asking AI about, like, did these transitions happen quickly? And, like, yes, you can look at things like the Bretton Woods and say there was a definite date when
this exactly
everyone got together and changed. But even that one, it took a long time for things to be marked in price differently in the US dollar. There was periods where if you're buying oil or something, it was in US and the British pound simultaneously. It had like two denominations. So it wasn't just one thing. It was, you'd have like, oh, I can understand it's this and it's this. And some two people coming from different sides see the same thing and they're like, oh, okay, that's the price. So it's not just one thing. So there's a switch over. And people really struggle with that denominator switch. I always see that in Bitcoin meetups where they're like, but it's priced in USD, like, therefore Bitcoin it's always going to be priced in USD. I'm like, oh, it's going to switch at some point. It'll take a while. But people talking about Bitcoin beyond 2100, I think, are out of their fucking mind. And here was one thing that happened recently. It's eternal. It's more. They were making more the claim of scarcity. Bitcoin's so scarce, that's why it's so valuable. And it's actually even more scarce than suns and the galaxies in the universe. So, and when it gets to that stage, I'm like, would I rather own a galaxy or a Bitcoin? I think I want to own a galaxy, to be honest. I can do a whole lot with a galaxy. So,
Well,
when it gets to 2100, I think there'll be a new currency. I think there'll be a new thing that is valued.
I think we get way more dramatic than that. I think 2100 brings a bit more drama into our lives.
Okay.
And that is, so let's go fundamentals, right? A dollar, Australian dollar, American dollar, anything. What do you use that for? What do you use money for? Right? And money here
purchasing things.
Purchasing things, correct. So to a camera, to microphones, to food. Mm-hmm. But my view is that by 2100 and the AI usage and Googling and stuff that I was doing is my thought process is a middle, not your high, what is considered right now the low socioeconomic and your middle class grouping. Everything up to that middle class will in essence be just about free. Like modes of living at that standard will become free. Again, I say that is that ubiquitous, everyone in the world? No, I think it's going to be centered to like big cities that allow for this possibility to occur. But things are just going to become basically next to nothing or free. Like call it like a cent to a free, whatever. At that point, if everything you need in terms of food and your items for your sort of daily living becomes free, what then would you do with your money at that point? In fact, let's just stretch the idea. If everything was free, right? If you could get all your necessities for free, then do you care or have a need for money? At that point, it becomes like, well, I guess not really. I guess in my mind, I'm thinking, well, not really. You don't. What would you need it for at that point? So, will we get there by 2100 with like doesn't exist at all? No, because then there's always going to be levels of like, well, what about a jet or like a yacht or something like that? Not everyone in the world is going to have that, even if we are at a post-scarcity economy, but people might want to aspire to get there. I think, and this is why, but I still believe, I think something like a Bitcoin is going to be the fundamental thing of usage. I think the concept of money as the usage of transacting what we think today is like, oh, that's got a dollar figure, will shift to more of a concept of energy. And that in itself is probably where Bitcoin will continue propelling, and the usage of something like Satoshi of just fractional Bitcoin will become aplenty. Call it tokenization of the economy, call it using Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it. I think it'll just become more of a case of the level of energy that you want to use to attain or get certain things. I think I've talked about it in the past, but I think by 2100, it'll be a case of, and again, how it is exactly plays out, I have no clue. But it's let's just say a chair out there, rather than being like, oh, that chair is $20. It won't be considered that's $20. It also won't be considered like, oh, that chair has a value inherent to me of $20. It'll be more a concept of, oh, I've got my energy availability for the day or week of whatever points you want to call it, which here I think is going to be like Satoshis. Let's just say 1,000 Satoshis per week. And it'll be like, oh, that's an equivalent of 15 Satoshis. And while we call it today as like, oh yeah, 15 Satoshis has a worth because we map it to USD or to Australian dollars, I think by 2100, there will be no mapping to any currency. It'll just be, oh, that's 15 Satoshis, and Satoshis will actually be mapped to, the energy that it takes to just transact or get that particular thing. Because at that point, when everything is next to like $0, what the hell is the concept of dollars or currency or the meaning of that? It'll just become more a currency of the energy it takes for you to get the product that you need or want.
Yeah. I could certainly see the energy being more of a component of what actually makes up a currency, and particularly like the global reserve one. That chair example you mentioned, I look at that now and I don't see kind of $20 in that, for example, because it's like, how the fuck are you going to get $20? Like, sure, you can go through all the effort of going onto Gumtree and stuff and you can sell it, but when you go walking around your day-to-day life in this house, I don't imagine you're like $50 table, $20 chair,
No, for sure.
$36 lamp or something like that. You just like, no, lamp, chair, desk, that sort of thing. So the kind of concept of money in terms of buying things, I think will still be there because there's only so many resources on Earth. I don't think we're going to be able to go post-scarcity in terms of physical stuff. So People are always going to want a bigger house. People are always going to want fancier clothes, and the way to flex or show that you are wealthy or have, and maybe wealth is not the right term. Perhaps it's powerful. Perhaps it's I'm more energetic. I've got more stored energy.
Yeah, I think the language will be more like that. In that it'll be about energy, control, power. It won't be about money, wealth. Concepts, those concepts, I think, will fall to the years of utilization of, you need to work. Like, so again, foundationally, it's right now, most humans, you exert a level of energy. You work for 8 hours at roughly this pace to create certain things, and then you get paid in like dollar figure something to the equivalent of either the value that you're doing or just the physical work that you do. But when it comes to a transition where, actually work is optional, which means like directly, you don't have to work. You have to have 0 joules of energy that has to be expended for you to get something. It's like, well, the concept of then what that transaction of getting something for value and everything costing almost zero, it makes no sense. Like currency and wealth make no sense in that concept. Yeah. Or it just shifts to something different.
There's already a fun experiment you can do, which is, and I recommend most people at least try this once, which is if you're going to go buy something, think of it in terms of, okay, I earn X dollars per hour. So if I'm buying this, kind of unnecessary good, let's say you're on Temu or Shine, and you just see something like ridiculously stupid lava lamp of whatever, and you go, I could get that. Okay, that's actually like 2 hours worth of my time. And so you can view, instead of it being a currency, it's like you're viewing it in terms of time. That's a fun experiment to do, because you can then, it gives you a different perspective on the value of the thing. And you go, okay, sure, it's $60, but if I'm working $30 an hour, that's 2 hours of my time. Is it worth 2 hours of my current time to buy that thing? And it gives you a different flavor on the value of it. This is why I was hinting back to last episode, the kind of currency being some sort of measure of consciousness and how much of attention you get at something.
I think that breaks down though. That idea breaks down at the extremes, right? Because when you got people earning $15,000, $20,000 an hour more, like if then they see a lava lamp and it's like, that's worth 1.3 seconds of my time, are they going to be like, absolutely, 1.3 seconds, sure, whatever. But the value of it might still be the value that any human might get from that particular product.
Look, I the way I'll put it, there will still be some sort of measuring system of value. That's
sure.
That's how I'll put it. And I don't think it'll be Bitcoin by that stage. I think it'll be something even more digital / energy / consciousness related.
Wow.
And that's how I'll put it.
I don't know if you've got something energy related, but one of the other ones that I think is very likely to happen is mini fusion reactors for everyone. Okay. I think we're going to all have mini fusion reactors basically next door to the home. I think it'll be a concept of the scientific breakthroughs of, two parts. One, people being okay with using nuclear and fusion, but two, making it a scalable, generalized usage thing. Again, imagine it as like solar panels. You've got your wall batteries that you can be using. Next thing, it'll just be portable, like mini fusion reactors that I think the way I noted it was like the energy problem goes away at that point. Like with enough mini fusion reactors doing what you need, that's it. You're good to go for a long time.
/ childbirthing machine. I want both of them in the same,
at the same time. I want my baby being made in the fusion reactor.
Yeah, exactly. How am I going to get my Flash / superhero baby that I want if it's not through that? I hadn't had any thoughts on that, but that makes sense to me in terms of having I've had power cut off pretty recently. Fucking annoying. It was just annoying, and also completely wiped out 2 hours of my time, because it was just like, all of these things that I was going to do, cook using the microwave, can't do that now. Use the laptop or something. Well, I've got an hour, a bit of battery life on that. So when even just like the minor roving blackouts that you can experience, when you're living off grid, for example, almost everyone has a generator out there, because you're so screwed when you don't have energy. So I really hope it would be something like that, and getting more away from the digging shit out of the ground just to be able to use the zinc for solar panels and stuff. And maybe there'll be a mix of things but sure, nuclear. Sure, I'll go with it.
Yep. We're going with
Sounds good to me.
I've got 3 more. 2 are like crazy and 1 is like insane.
Okay. Well, I still need to do robots and should I do this consciousness one? Well, maybe something could just be related to consciousness. Is I was doing some research, like Peter the Slav, thank you, gave some recommendations in terms of learning more about AI on the technical level. And so I had been doing that these last couple of months. 3 blue, 1 brown, for example, gives real good visualizations, vectors, and weightings of how some of the LLMs work at the moment. And he gave an example of like, you've got a full novel ending with, therefore the murderer was ... And can the LLMs at this current stage kind of piece it together, use reasoning to figure it out? And I'd say at the moment, yes. Is that your understanding? That it's a completely brand new novel. They'd never been trained on it before, but they've got enough like past inferences of what humans are capable of thinking and
to make the
writing
guess of it, sure. Yep.
to do that. So I thought, that reasoning I think is kind of there in a sense. But a little side idea that popped to my mind was an indication for consciousness, because even if it can do that, I wouldn't say any of the AIs are conscious now. And probably I'd say most people agree with that, although there's some who disagree. That Google guy from a year or 2 ago was saying like, this thing's conscious and et cetera, et cetera. For me, it would be something like if the weightings and the vectors, what he was saying was this 3 blue, 1 brown, was that it should always give the same output on if it's got the data that it's got. It's been trained on all these models. So a snapshot at time, if you ask it a question, it should always give you the same response. That's kind of how they work at the moment. An indication that perhaps some consciousness or something is happening beneath the surface is that it can give different outputs for the same input. So if you take a human, for example, like the way a joke sometimes is funny is like, you hear the same thing, why'd the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? But then like a joke works because you can put a twist on it or say something that's like slightly unexpected, but still somehow links. I think Dave Chappelle's really good at this, hence why he's like so fucking funny. So when AI starts giving some like surprise consciousness things, like giving some surprises, where it's like, oh, I really didn't expect that. And how did that come about? It's kind of unknown. It's a mystery. That's where it's like the consciousness can kind of be said to be like, oh, something's conscious, which gets into when you're talking about the people living longer. I can see us moving. If you want to live to 120 plus, you gotta move to silicon and away from the carbon.
Absolutely.
Fleshy stuff. So I think it's got to go to silicon, and I'm reasonably confident that you can have consciousness through silicon. I don't think the actual carbon
you can, but
matters.
There was an interesting convo I think Lex Friedman was having with, can't remember who it was, but it might have been a couple of months ago. And they were talking about
that nails it down.
Well, yeah, they were talking about this concept of like you can only really understand carbon life forms in our when you speak and you say, oh, like I kind of understand what that means and what it feels like and all this. We know it as like we understand that on a carbon life form, but what happens when you go down the path of when it's starting to merge with silicon and other chemicals and substrates? When that starts changing, how do you even really start interacting and empathizing and connecting with these other humans or other beings because the substrate is completely different. So the idea, I guess, maybe of saying
like
something like
echolocation, for example.
Yeah, or pain. Even use echolocation. What does that even mean? What does that even mean?
Bats can do it. We say bats are conscious, but we don't have that sense.
Yeah, so that ability of us to consciously think, oh yeah, this is what it would be like. That makes no sense for us because it does not exist in our concept or experience, whatever you might want to term it.
Although there is the Thomas Nagel article. I read it recently.
What it's like to be a bat.
Yeah, and he kind of says, but we can kind of guess, we can kind of guess what it's like to be a bat with the echolocation, even though we don't have that sense. There's a feeling attached to that we could be like, and feeling that there's a wall over there and sensing that instead of just visually seeing it. Whereas with a rock or my water bottle, I go I don't think there's a feeling that it's like to be this thing that's just nothingness. So maybe that's still, it might not be true in that that something's conscious, but we say it's not because we don't have a feeling of what it's like to.
Well, that's what I think. I think it's more,
but it could actually be conscious. And then,
correct. Yeah, it's just down to our definition of what it feels like to be.
By 2100, will someone have committed what we would consider an atrocity? Will an atrocity? So
yes,
we're in 2100. An atrocity's been committed against a AI or group of AI.
I think someone will go to jail by doing something erroneous on a robot.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that'll happen.
All right. Nice.
Here's into my slightly more crazy ideas by 2100s.
Not nice. Bad person who did that.
I think by 2100, I'm calling it, humans will become gods.
Okay.
What do I mean by this? Humans will become gods.
I want to be Buddha.
Right now, the content that we watch or that we interact is made for us. Wonderful. But where we sit today, you can generate brand new videos, brand new images, and it's an amalgamation of things and concepts. I think in 10 years' time, I could probably start seeing that becoming where you could literally just generate your own movie, your own maybe short form movie or long form movie. So again, that has its own transitions. Yeah. But by 2100, I think the availability for just about any human on Earth to use whatever application or whatever input that it is needed to create whole replicatable universes, solar systems in a digital format to become a god. So now there's probably games that exist that are somewhat like this, but I wouldn't even call it a game anymore. I just think there will be reality creating systems out there that everyone will have access to be your own god and run full entire universes down to the levels of you want this type of physics, you want, the electron gravity pull to be this strong, all the way down to the individuals, which kind of compute all the way back to us. And if we are in a simulation theory, I think it'll just be so, I think it's crazy, but I think it will happen all the way to, you acting like a god. So you can just be, pull yourself all the way back and be like, you know what, I'm going to set up the physics to be this way and gravity to do this and change the mathematic constant to do that. But you can also zoom in and be like, you know what, I'm going to go to the year 1900 of this particular universe. I'm going to go to Earth and I'm going to smite this guy, stuff his guy.
Sure.
I think he's annoying. I'm going to hit him with a lightning bolt. I think that'll happen, but I think it's just going to be, I don't know how that concept will generate, but I think everyone will become gods of their own little universe that you'll just be able to interact. How you do that, I'm not sure, but...
So I was last night just reading Record of Ragnarok. We've talked about this before, where Juan had seen the Netflix thing where Zeus is doing his dance, his tippy toes. We talked about that maybe 3 or 4 years ago. A long time. And so I was reading that, and they've got all these offshoot mangas as well related to it. There's one about Jack the Ripper. There's one about the gods themselves. And so the gods in the one I was reading last night, they've got this final spot. So it's basically story is the gods are sick of humanity. They're going to fucking smite them all. And that's this thing called Ragnarok. But humanity gets a chance to fight back and they fight against the gods in these 1v1 battles. But the spin-off had this thing where it was like the gods were like, oh, there's one spot left. And like each god is, super prideful. They think like, I'm the fucking strongest. I'm the one who should be in that final spot, the best spot. And so now they've got another mini tournament where it's God v God.
Oh, God v God. Yeah, okay.
And this is actually almost very similar to what you're talking about, because all of these gods, they got to create their own universe. They got to, decide whether they wanted to like kill humanity or not in their universe, but they're all kind of somehow linked as well. So this is where you're going like, okay, if
it's happening, man. It's happening.
We're all gods. 2100. There's going to be a prophecy. I'll create the prophecy for us right now, so people in 2100 can come back to this, and they'll be like the wisdom of Chiron.
Yep.
He hath forspoken, and there in 2100 there's going to be a God v God battle, and it'll be very much like Record of Ragnarok, where they're just fighting over who gets to fuck up or domain over the remaining humans, because there's still going to be some humans like out in the wild, non-gods. That's what's going to happen.
And you know what? I also think it's going to go down that path. From reading Lord of the Rings, it kind of like, I don't know, just came up in my mind in that, Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, not The Hobbit, but the trilogy, that came out of the fact that J.R.R. Tolkien just created this world and languages and all these things. And then from that kind of came our story. Now, I'm sure he had some idea of what sort of story he might want to tell, because he'd written The Hobbit, The Ring was in it, all this sort of stuff. But he created this huge world and then essentially placed
Was The Hobbit first? Or was
The Hobbit was first.
Okay.
Yeah, Hobbit. So J.R.R. Tolkien wrote The Hobbit. It was originally intended for his kids. So he wrote it while he was just like doing his teachings and whatnot. And I don't know specifically if he just released it for his kids or he wrote it, kind of like produced it as a book, and then it sold really well. But it was intended to be just for his kids. Yeah, and that's why it was much shorter, not as much detail. Then he was always fascinated with world building and lore, and just created all the languages and the world that is like Middle Earth. And then from that, apparently, then he was like, oh, now that I've got all these places and people and histories, kind of just came out the creation of Lord of the Rings as we know it. So
I'm going to create Old Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, Old Tom Bombadil. But what I think from that extraction is it'll become exactly the same thing where, right now, if you want to create a story or like a movie, sure, you like me and you could think of like, oh, I want to create a movie that's like this, and maybe in a couple of years AI will be able to do it. But I think by 2100, it'll be like, no, you'll be creating like whole universes, kind of a la J.R.R. Tolkien creating his own world. You'll be doing that, but in like full reality, and it'll just be going, and you could just pick and choose and like be like, oh, today I want to watch
full reality, full virtual reality,
full virtual reality. But at that point, what's the differentiation between virtual and non-virtual?
Well, very nice link up to my second last one here about creativity. So I hinted at this as well in the last episode of Rick Beato, and he was talking about IP and copyright. And he's still doing it now, and he's saying like, there's a demonstration of him. Hey, I've got this particular software with AI in it. Hey, create me an image of a girl called like Sandy Simones or something. Or maybe he doesn't even say that. Just like give me a girl like mid-20s, indie pop star, creates an image and gives her a name, and then it's like, hey, create me a song. It's got to have this type of vibe to it, and it does it. Creates a song. It's a passable song. It's like, okay, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard. And how that came about was, she has been trained over all of these examples of songs throughout history, and female pop stars throughout history. And it spit out something that's kind of like a amalgamation of them all. Who owns the IP and copyright to that? Does Rick Beato, because he gave it the prompt? Does each person have like a 1/10,000th% of Katy Perry, of Sabrina Carpenter, of et cetera, et cetera? I don't see how over time IP can really be protected. As in, like,
well, I did have this. I did have this thought. I didn't put it into my notes. I just like it would need a lot of exploration about it. But I think that the strength, our concept of our data or data of creation of things will be now, whether it's using something like blockchain for verifiable truth or some other protocol or some other way, you will be able to receive royalties for the usage of your creation or your material into the future by whatever system gets used. I mean, here I'm thinking AI, but who knows what it looks like into the future. But by that I mean is if you're a songwriter and you put 10 songs out in the world, and like your data pool of information, if it gets used 32 million times a year, you'll get paid fractionally every single time that it gets leveraged. So, and again, here I'm paid whatever system, whatever form of funding is used in that particular time domain is how it would get used. So IP protection, like it kind of goes away under the proviso that everything that everyone puts out is always has some sort of fractional basis back to the creator to some degree. But
yeah, I don't.
I was thinking this, and I was like, there's
no. I think there'll still be privacy in the year 2100. If you want to have do something in the privacy of your own home, you'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to switch off systems and things where it's like,
oh sure, yeah.
So there'll still be data.
Sorry. The reason I was saying this is that you then have the choice to basically on-sell or not sell your data.
Yep. So I think that'll be a thing. In 2100, if you want to have an IP or brand, you can still have provenance with things like saying like, I was the one who first had this idea. I was the one who first put this thing out. It's more the protection of it that you can see nowadays with, let's take the James Joyce estate. If you want to put a paragraph of a James Joyce novel into a book that you're writing, and whether that book be, a long meandering Lord of the Rings type thing, and you're just like, here's the perfect quote to insert into here, whether it be an actual book about James Joyce, the author, and to include him as here's a sample quote of him as a demonstration of his writings. At the moment, the James Joyce estate, they go, fuck yeah, give us a ridiculous sum of money in either case, and if you don't, we'll set the lawyers on you and fuck you to hell. That's how it works at the moment. James Joyce estate has been particularly egregious, probably because his work is so fucking worthless that there's the only reason that they can somehow make money. Because who the hell is buying a James Joyce book? I don't think that system of being able to just go after people like that is going to work in the world of anyone being able to create anything and say like, hey, I want a James Joyce type, lyrical passage about a chair. I don't see that happening. So it's more like the enforcement sort of idea, getting into, it's almost like a V for V world where it's just more transactions are done on a voluntary basis instead of a, hey, give me your money it's the enforcement of this that I'm not really sure is going to work unless you have an AI system versus an AI system in yours. That's I guess the fundamental question is, does an idea have an owner? And I don't believe that's to be the case personally. Ethically, I would say, but I might be in the minority there. So it irrelevant. I just see these systems getting so powerful, so strong that it's going to be impossible to
try to follow it,
enforce and keep up with how much of this percent of this idea was used in this other idea. I just don't see that really working.
I think it'll become meaningless.
So you can still do brand and storytelling, and you can have it in your place. Let's take VFriends, for example. I think he'll still be able to do that. But in terms of enforcing and making sure that, me, Kyron over here, and I make a Kindred Kangaroo spin-off series, I don't think he's going to be able to enforce that, but we'll see. We'll see. Last ones. Yeah. Robots. There's what do you envision robots as being part of our lives in 2100? So there's physical hardware that is non-human. What do you foresee them doing, or where are they going to be in our lives?
I think there'll be...
Now, this is coming from the guy who thinks we're going to have humanoid robots in our home in 2 years' time.
I think I've shifted my mind a little bit in that I don't think there'll be that humanoid in form in 2100. I think it'll just be robotics or the usage of technology across just about everything that you're doing around the home will just be so, again, that one's going to be ubiquitous. That'll just be everything. Like anything, I could be listening at anything, but it'd just be, basically everything you can think of, it'll just be to some degree, shape or form, robots supporting it.
Okay. For me, hardware, most difficult of all things in terms of creating a product and selling it. Like, this is why Apple is so valuable, because they did it. I feel like a metaverse is a more realistic idea than it being implemented in the real world, iRobot style, for example. So if you have to take like the Wreck-It Ralph version of a world, or Wreck-It, because that's a cartoon. I'm trying to think of a more appropriate one. Let's say I haven't actually watched the film, but what was the one where it's like a kid goes into like a battleground sort of thing via VR? It was really popular a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I never actually watched it, but
I know exactly. I watched it. I forget what the name of it is.
That thing versus iRobot, I think it'll be more the kid version. So it's more the VR type thing. So will we have humanoid robots walking the streets in our homes? No. I'm going to say no for those. Mostly for the size disparity. And so I'm putting a size thing onto it, because I don't want a robot with a bigger dick than me. I can't handle that one. No, so it's actually, I think we'll have nanobots doing crazy shit inside of our body.
I think so.
I think that's definitely a possibility.
I think that's
a strong possibility.
That'll be like a big piece of just life extension, just the use of nanobots for basically everything and anything.
And would also have gargantuan things like the trucks, the ships, the diggers, and those will be well away from us. And if there's going to be any mid-sized human-type robot things, I think we're just going to have separation. I just don't see how we can interact with these things, which are so, especially if they're like autonomous.
Easy. You've triggered my trap card on how we're going to do this in 2100.
But let me finish here. So we'll have all the big ones, the ships, the containers, the trucks. They'll be, in the middle of the deserts. They'll be on the oceans, all that sort of stuff. Nanobots inside of us all around. Sure.
Yep.
And the mid-sized robots, our size, I think there will be them, but they'll all be drones. So they'll dominate the skies, because I just don't really I don't ever see a individual human flight being a thing. I don't think we're good with 3D. We need to be 2D animals. So that's where I certainly see, like, if there's going to be tons of robots, the drones taking over the skies, yeah, sure, I can, or like, let's say the mid skies from,
could imagine that
3 meters off the ground to where do planes fly at? Is it
31,000 feet?
Yeah, so like maybe they can dominate until
certain height,
like 25,000 feet or something.
Yeah, I think so. See, this is the one I was thinking about, because there's my other one, crazy. I don't think this will be normalized by then, but we will have loads of robots doing loads of things. Right now, when you think from the 1990s or 1980s, you had, I'm thinking like phones, you had pages, so you're like typing it into little buttons. Now we're still using a screen now. There's no buttons, but it's a screen and you're moving around. You're still using your fingers. Maybe in the next 20, 30 years, it'll shift to much more voice, other ways. But by 2100, I'm calling this out. I don't know if I've heard this ever elsewhere.
Original idea.
This is the original idea. We're going to have thought-to-thought protocol. Yeah. And the way that I'll break this down is, I don't know if you're familiar. So when you go database to front-end layer for a website, let's just say, it has to go through certain like layers. Okay. And usual layer is you'd have your database, and your database goes out to what is called an API layer, or just like a layer that is helpful in terms of matching what the request of the information is. Because your database might have 100 rows of data, of columns or tables of data, but for going and buying a particular thing, you only need 1 or 2 tables or columns or data areas. And so you'll selectively get that, and you'll click all these buttons. So yes, in the foreseeable future, you'll go from tapping or clicking to just voice activating and going through that layer. But there is a thing called machine-to-machine interaction, which is kind of, you don't need that front-end layer interaction, because from a machine to a machine, all they're caring about is, hey, I just need all this bulk of data to go and do all these other things I need to do. So it's much faster, it's much quicker. It just goes, loop, there you go. I think it'll be two parts. We're going to have thought-to-thought protocols for humans, as in there won't be much use for speaking anymore. Everyone will just be thinking things and passing each other thoughts, and there'll be much less confusion in that. And you'll have to have like certain security gates on what you allow to pass through and not pass through.
Because there's the big like objection to that would be the
everyone can think can like see what I'm thinking.
And also the thoughts that identifying your own thoughts with yourself as well, because like we've all had these fucked up things where you're like, whoa, I can't believe I thought that. That's really fucked up.
So there'll be some security boarded around that, but it'll be thought-to-thought protocols with all the machinery that you live and go around. So when I was really thinking about it, again, I'm like, 2100. Okay, imagine you have robot Ubers, robot taxis that are coming and picking you up, but you won't be interacting with them with a phone. You won't even be doing it by voice. It'll be pure thought protocols of, bing, it just goes out to like little nodes areas. It'll be like, oh, I actually need to go to that location, which then that connects to the other location, and then it just brings it through. So as soon as whatever it is that you need, it's there. Same thing will be when you wake up, if that's still a concept. It'll be a thought protocol of, okay, cool, like a coffee machine, go, this needs to be clean, this needs to be fixed up. So I think it'll get, again, not normalized. I think that might be at the, technophile or like elites level that might have that. But I think we're going to get to thought protocol within 75 years. Yeah. And then my super crazy idea, which Karen had a little bit this morning when I was talking about it with my wife, is we're going to achieve time travel. We're going to achieve time travel. It's going to happen 75 years from now. But what I mean by that is, again, I talked about the creation of universes and doing all that thing. I think you're going to be able to merge fork yourself in these various ways, in that you might wake up one morning and you go, today I want to go to the city and go and have an enjoyable time. But, you don't have to leave it to chance anymore. So it's 2100, so you use whatever thought-to-thought protocol to get all this information for you, and you can run infinite simulations of what could Juan do today that will achieve this to do that to get this outcome, and it'll go, cool, I'll just run every single permutation with quantum computer and go through and be like, okay, well, today, if you want to have a really good time and at the best opportunity to meet a fellow female and blah, 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 then you should go here, do this, do that, do this, do this, do this, do this, do that. I've already scheduled it in for you. Do you want to proceed with that particular timeline? And you go, yes, I do. Bang, off you go. Now, my wife made this call. Yes, but if you're doing that, what if everyone else is doing it, and so then they change the timeline? Yeah. But again, that's all comes down to the probability ratios, right? Yes, it's a probability thing, but everyone else's probability will also give them rational probabilities with the use of what's going on. So I think time travel backwards, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it, but time travel forwards to predict the future or to give you the best probability of the future, I think will exist by 2100. I reckon someone's going to create that with the usage of all that kind of like universe creation to go, it'll be like a multiverse situation that you could just run in your own local multiverse running, and then you can fork yourself as a human and then merge yourself back into whatever you want to do that day.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see that, folks. I think we're going to see time travel by forking yourself out and merging yourself back to your most preferred timeline into the day.
Sure. Yeah, that could be fun. Okay, quick rapid fire before we give maybe an overview day of the life of someone in 2100.
Yep.
So, will there still be noticeable race differences in 2100, especially if we're intermingling with each other and or the robots?
Yep.
So
there'll be one significant race difference, and I think it's going to be the people who are max tech using and people who are not max tech using.
So it's not going to be a skin color type thing.
I think hope it's not that, and it'll become those who use maximal tech and those who don't.
Yep. I do remember reading something a while ago that the average race color is becoming a bit more chocolatey over time, like a milk chocolate.
A milk chocolate.
You've got the dark skinned Africans, the white, Swedish Eskimo type people, and then and every variation in between, and that gradually we're all getting towards a bit more of a brownishy color.
Sure.
I think that is still happening. I'll say there will still be race differences, but the bigger ones will be, like you mentioned, the technophile versus non-technophile. Okay. Will we be interstellar with our meat bodies at all? We didn't talk about space travel or anything like that. Most of this seems centered around Earth. are we going to be interstellar by?
I think we will. I think we will.
Yep, I would say yes, but it won't necessarily be with our meat bodies. I just think space is probably too harsh, and so
I just think we will, and it will become more fascinating and easier to digitally explore a universe than it will be to actually explore the universe.
Yes, correct. I agree with that, and safer is the main thing.
For sure.
So I think there'll be some pioneers who will be on Mars, who want to go outside of our galaxy in their physical meat bodies, just because humans rule.
Yep.
But the vast majority of humans will be still on Earth. Is my prediction there. How many humans? And when I say humans, I mean the kind of meat body version, or it's, there's...
I think we'll have more than what we have today.
More? Are we talking, tens of billions, hundreds of billions?
Nah, I'm going to say like 10, 12 billion.
Okay. I also think that will be in like the low tens of billions sort of range. So that's kind of my thoughts as well. All right, so day in the life. Let's say it's like Kyron, mid-30s guy in 2100. Will I be alive? I'd be 108 by that time.
We're going to be easily alive unless you get unless we die by an accident. I think everyone's scot free. Everyone's good. You're going to be around for sure.
I'm 50-50 on that. I'm not sure of that.
I think send an accident or freak virus development.
If I make it to 80, you think I'll make it to 108?
Correct.
Kind of idea.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Interesting. I'm unsure.
Self-propelled existence by your body alone, I think you'll get there. But external factors obviously might pose a risk to that.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So I wake up. I've got I'm imagining I'm waking up. I'm in a very similar house to like the one we're in now.
Yep, a house. Yep.
Or an apartment, a physical space of, adequate size for how many square foot, or just general houses?
160, 200 square meters.
That sort of square footage range. I've probably got a partner or significant other with me. Whether that's a human or an AI, up to your choice. To your choice. I get up, I do something. I'm still going to do silly, stupid things. Let's say I get up too quick, or I've got a glass of water next to me on the table. I knock it over, break it, like fuck, and maybe even cut myself or something. So it's like, shit. That I go down, I like walk out of the room. I'm thinking like, like whatever I think or I say to just a robotish type thing in my house. I'm not talking a humanoid one, but
just a robotish
thing. Perhaps it'll just be the vacuum cleaner type one. Hey, can you go clean that up? I've got to fix up my hands, and I just go to like a wall or something and I press my hand against it. It diagnoses like, oh yeah, it's like this type of cut. Here's some nanobots. Fixes it up, cleans up my shit. I kind of am deciding what am I going to do with today. Still, we haven't genetically modified the atmosphere or temperatures and stuff. So it's still going to be like, oh, is it going to be rainy today or sunny? We'll have better prediction systems of it. So I'll be able to know like, oh, it's going to rain in this area in particular at this time. But it's still going to be largely at the whims of the world, the atmosphere, as to what it actually is. I spend time with friends. I get to choose largely what I'm doing. The work component, I don't think we're going to be working by that stage. And in terms of work of doing things that you dislike for money, I don't think the vast bulk of people are going to be doing that. Is it a utopia? No. There's still going to be kind of like homeless-ish type people who don't have a physical location. But much like now that homeless people have stereos and phones and stuff like that, they'll be out and about, but they'll still have access to crazy things, which nowadays would be like, holy fuck, that's a god right now. But in fact, it's just a homeless person in 2100. I'm imagining drones flying around in the air. I'd still prefer connections with people and some connections in real life with people, but digital is going to be the vast bulk of things. So I'll spend time in a metaverse-ish type place. I will be ordering, doing things, working, playing on a screen type thing in my house, or perhaps it's just glasses, or perhaps it's even just a visual, brain chip or something that is projecting things in front of me. I'm still going to be mostly meat-based, and there will be still pockets of humanity doing different things. There's going to be the pocket of humanity who are the naturalists living out in their fucking acreage and, getting diseases and stuff, and I'll just be like viewing them much like I view the people who are completely anti-vaccine and their children are getting smallpox and fucking polio and shit like that nowadays, where you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then there'll be the other versions who are the crazy technophiles. They're super modified. They're doing all of the random ass body modifications and, electronic ears or
whatever else.
They've got rid of their arm and it's completely like bionic arm, kind of like how people were getting tattoos back in the day, and it's like, holy fuck, they got a full sleeve, like they've just ruined their arm, or like they're a bikie or something like that. So you'll have all these subcultures. We didn't talk about the, I guess, like other ethical type things, but yeah, there'll be changes in ethics. AI will be, you can't kill an AI. That'll be viewed as an ethically
well, we're talking about
thing.
like, will someone get sent to jail because of...
But then also, will borderless travel be available? It's not going to be utopia. There's still going to be like fucked up places in the world where you're like, oh, I really don't want to visit there, or I wouldn't want to be born in that sort of place nowadays.
I actually think the only thing I'd change there is that I think it might be if we, either humanity or like city centers and that, don't change or do something to help force more physical presence, I see it more dystopian in that you wake up, you thought to the machine and be like, yep, can you make me this so I can drink that? If you have kids of that choice, I just say you make the choice of having a digital baby. So you make it a digital baby and check in and provide all the context. And then I actually see it very dystopian in that you then go lay down on like a really comfortable chair for your meat body to sit in, and then you just either through screen or through just thought to thought, you just go into the universes that you create, that you're godlike, and you just spend all your time there. Yeah. Because like that to me is like, if that is achieved, I think for an average individual, again, it's kind of like the example. Yeah, if you can go into a world that you have full, omnipresence and complete and utter power, what is then in the world at large that you actually want to experience? If that's like your maximal experiences that you can achieve right there, if it's very close to reality, I guess at that point, like my dystopian view is, unless we do something about it, the real world become not really used. Everyone just be in digital world, because then why would you at that point, question would be, why in the hell would you not be in the digital world? Kind of like Matrix mode. Why wouldn't you just be in there?
Yeah, it might get less used, but it'll still be used by people. I think there's
But I think the problem comes in that we're saying that as like humans of today, and like humans of like 2 generations from now will go, maybe they'll go like, what the hell? You were using phones? Why wouldn't you just like talk to your wall and get them to call? Like, something crazy like that, which is like the kind of next evolution. And then another 2 generations might be like, what the hell you were talking? Like, couldn't you just like think to do all this other thing? So I think similarly in like those steps, it'll be a little bit of like, oh my God, you watched a movie that someone else made. Like, wouldn't you have just made whatever the hell you wanted to entertain you? And then the evolution on that is like, why would you want to go outside when maybe it's rainy, maybe it's sunny and you're going to get sunburned, when you could just lay down, relax and dream anything you want and it occur?
Yeah. I also go take the differences from 1800 to 1875. So, because we're talking 2100, 75 years in the future, that there was significant stuff geopolitically, but the way humans lived was, well, yeah, I'd say changed rather dramatically with the revolution of the steam engine. So more people were moving into the cities. 75 to 1950, obviously big world war had changed a lot of things. So taking that into consideration, electricity in the homes and things like that. And then 1950 to now, we're still we've focused a lot on the technology aspect, but probably not enough on humans still being humans throughout that whole period. Still getting into like love-hate relationships with people of the opposite sex, still producing a lot of babies, still valuing art and rare things, still, has our tastes and our, fashion now is popular important. Fashion back then was popular important. The entertainment now popular important. Same back then. So the things that we focus on and still interested on are still largely the same. And I don't think we've probably not factoring in enough on the millennia of evolution that got us to where we are now.
Yeah.
And how that will
sometimes
dictate a lot of the things that we do, even if we have the technological wonderlands, which I think we still
I do agree. I sometimes think in that way, and I'm like, yeah, that is true, because if you look at past whatever hundreds of years, again, you got to extrapolate it based on the pace of evolution of humanity and whatnot. But sometimes I think yes, but that's also stupid in that if something big enough happens, then it doesn't matter what the precursor 75 years was. If something of radical difference happens in the next preceding years, then it changes things completely. It fucking does not matter what the fucking last 75 years happened. So like an example, I sometimes think it's like, you could go look back and be like, well, in the last 75 years, well, this happened, like a virus happened, and we all had to go in and change, but overall we didn't change all that much. And they go, oh yeah, well, what if in 10 years a fucking meteor destroys the world and then it's 15 humans left existing in space? Like, fucking, it's completely different. So obviously I'm not saying something to that level, but again, if something so dramatically heavy hits from a technological perspective or another perspective altogether, it's like, yes, it will change it very dramatically. Like, I think people can get caught up in, oh yeah, but human evolution has been evolutioning in this way for millions of years, and so it won't fuck up, because if something heavy enough changes, well, of course it will change. The probability of that is lower, but I think inversely, if you looked at 75 years ago and thought of what was available at the time to change in the following 75 years, yes, people were thinking like flying cars, and this would have happened, and some things did come to fruition sometimes earlier. Other things that they couldn't even have possibly thought could happen did happen and go beyond. Like, there's no way 75 years ago people thought like, oh, we're going to have fucking AIs.
Probably like cloud computing, something like that.
Yeah. Quantum computing, man. Fucking quantum comcomputing, or to that extent. Like, people would be like, what?
Do we have that now?
We do have quantum computing. Yeah.
I thought it was just like one little thing that they'd...
No. Because like a quantum computer is just all it means is that you have a computer using qubits, and they've existed for like a long time. It's just they're just making those computers bigger. Yeah, that's all, with more qubits.
Sure.
In any case, it's like, if you look 75 years ago to some of the stuff's happening now, there's like zero chance people would have like really predicted it. I think it just that trend will continue, and at the pace of scale of changes, it'll just become so dramatically different that it's an unfair comparison kind of to go back the previous 75 years. You almost have to look at it at what's been the rate of change of certain things to then predict what it might look like in the 5, 10 in compounding changes, and then maybe being like, okay, that might be a more realistic view.
The singularity type deal. I should probably read that book. So it's an interesting concept from what I know of it, but perhaps actually reading it. Sometimes you read a book, you've got an idea of a concept, like the metaverse, for example. You got this idea of it, then you read the book where it was birthed from, Snow Crash, and you go like, wow, okay, that was completely different.
Different to what you actually thought.
He was writing something very different to what people are talking about. Okay, we've talked a lot today. That was very fun. Thank you, Juan. A couple of comments here just before we finish up. We've got Cole McCormick, who was saying, the year 2100 will be magnificent. Society will be perfect. Common homes will resemble temples. Our vehicles will be like UFOs. Earth will be limitless. And he goes, Star Trek future, all material needs met, no money. Genesis Arc Abstracts saying 54 and looking at 70. I have no idea what that means.
54 and looking at 70. Maybe it was talking about age or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Then Cole says, Juan lost me when he started talking about Lex. He's not a big Lex fan.
Yeah, no, it's not, he doesn't like Lex. I don't like Lex in the sense of how he might articulate certain things, but I do like the guests that he gets on.
Yeah,
he's got some very cool guests.
I was just going to say, I haven't actually looked at any of his podcast or episodes in, I'm going to say, probably 6 months.
Oh, that's who he was talking to. He was talking to the CEO of DeepMind.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I don't know. I've got his list up here. You can probably bring it up.
He was talking to, like, I'm not going to go and listen to the Iran.
Yeah. That's what has turned me off the most about him. He started doing politics.
Yeah. He was talking to Demis Hassabis, the future of AI, simulating reality, physics, and video games. And he's the CEO of Google's DeepMind. But I think at the similar time that I watched that particular one, there was, I don't know if you've seen it, Google came out with a, imagine like world building, like game building, but instead of going and coding out the game and whatnot, you give it prompts of what the area it is that you want to be in. It drops like the first person view into it, and then it creates the world around you as you moved using just, again, tech, but to create an infinite world basically that you can just keep on playing. And in the scale of, I guess, like a game where you go into a random cave and random things will pop up like loot and monsters. I think about it in the same way, but everything that's happening is randomized to parameters that you might give it. It was actually quite cool. I'll show you afterwards if you haven't seen it.
To counter this, there is also a thing called Quantum Hosky, which is a game that I think it's IOG is creating. And if you go to the Hosky live stream that I did, there's a presentation from Trim, and he's talking about how it's got dish brains, AIs in it, some sort of biological other thing, and the game is like 4D. It's fucking dimensions. It's the most retarded thing I've ever heard, to be honest. I'm not sure it's a playable game. What you just said sounds very similar to that. So,
I'll show you maybe
there's hype around these things, which I'm not sure can be met. Is also what I'll say. Last comment here. Real truth, from Cole. Real truth. Consciousness is inherently spiritual. Tech bros know nothing about it. Your soul is what is conscious. Your soul connects to your DNA. Your brain just manages things. Yeah, sure. I would probably disagree with that, Cole. I'm more scientifically minded than
I think
when it comes to soul.
I think we'll all my take on all this sort of stuff in the conversation of like soul and what it means to be like a being and everything else. Again, I think I'm following that path of information at the base layer and all of that just connecting as just pure just information, and whether you want to call that data points, whether you want to call it extraction points. When people say, well, I could feel like the spirit of something else that's happening, and or good co-location, and some people start talking about it. It's because we're in the fabric of the universe. I think there's some relation and connectivity in that the base layer of everything is just data, like information layer. And so maybe that information, again, we're not the right people to talk about, but whether it's, through a quantum entanglement, whether it's through another way of entanglement from an information perspective, maybe that in the end gets brought up as being the soul or the entity or like what makes you. I don't know if, like you, I'm more of like, I need to see like some proof in the science.
I'm reading a book at the moment called Bad Science, and it's which is why I'm particularly attuned to a
bad science.
A
bad concept.
Bullshit radar detection is on heightened alert at this particular moment, and he calls out things like antioxidants, for example. People talk about antioxidants, nutritionists. He goes after when I say go after, I mean like he talks shit about the homeopaths, the nutritionists, and really calling them out on, okay, what do you mean when you say antioxidants are, going to have this effect on you, or that there's been a study that shows
cleanse your body.
Or getting rid of the toxins in you. And what do you mean when you say there's a study that shows that turmeric is highly protective or highly potent or protective or something P against cancer. And he's like, when you say that, and there's, you go into it, there's either no studies or they're just failing all the fundamental things. There's no actual data. They made it up. They are confusing correlation with causation.
Sure.
They are extrapolating heavily from data that might suggest one thing. Their data collection was iffy at best. And, he just goes on like, these are some of the fundamentals of the scientific method. Maybe the scientific
maybe
method.
by 2100 we can just have like more proofs or more like preciseness of stuff like that. Because I agree. There's so much like
when it comes to consciousness, unless there's some sort of measuring system, I'm highly skeptical of a lot of claims made about souls and energy and vibrations and claims about what that implies and the ethics.
Yeah, I'm not. It doesn't make me question, but the question that always pops up, like in my mind, is what's the underlying thing making all this work? If it could be in its reality, like okay, what's the reality that's underpinning this all?
Communism. That's what it is.
Communism. All right, Mere Mortals, we're going to leave it there. That was a long one. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for staying tuned.
Yeah.
For now, we're going to leave it there.
Jump into our Discord if you want to know about next week's topic early on, if you want to provide any thoughts on that. I've actually got a thing that I'll talk about with Juan afterwards. Value for value, provide some value back for any of the value you've received today. So go to meremortalspodcast.com/support and you can learn how to do that monetarily speaking. Also give us, ideas, suggestions, likes, comments, subs, sharing, all of those. Tell a friend about the Mere Mortals. All of that very much helps. So yeah, Juan, leave us.
Leave it there. Immortalize. One out.
Karen out.
Good. Bye.